pressure of 1,000 PSI or greater needs a 1,000-foot corridor. So what we're looking at is not 30 inches, we're looking at 42 inches. And we're not looking at 1,000 PSI, we're looking at 1,400. So this is even greater than the scope of what the research they had done here says. So what it's showing is if they're building this on a 300 feet away, and their own language is saying that based on the size and the pressure of the pipeline, it needs to be 1,000, that seems like when we do, if we can stop this and have a conversation about it, this will become evident, and this would be reason to have an argument of why it needs to be relocated. The other concern is that there's other options. It's not, should we put it right here or can we not do it at all? Which is, I think, what a lot of people come down to. If they see you protesting a pipeline, they're like, well, then you can't use gas in your own home, like you need to be all in or something like that. It's not about that, it's about safety. And this is convenience over safety, and that's not really the way to do this. We need to have safety outweigh convenience. So the recommended by FERC was following the ITC corridor, which is redirecting this whole pipeline so we're not in danger, so we're not trapped if there's problems. So we don't have to worry about 300, 1,000, any of that distance from a campsite and a high risk location. It's an option that was recommended to them, so the reasons they wouldn't do it, the only reasons that they've disclosed was technicalities. But I see technicalities here too. So I think the real issue is that it's more pipe, it's more money, it's more time. So this is making decisions based on cost and convenience at the risk of everybody who lives there, the camps, the children who are involved there. It just seems very irresponsible. And that's not even looking at the environmental impact. These are the main priorities that the Y has in this situation. We see a real risk to our campsite and to the children that go there.
I think that's an excellent review, and kudos to some of the research you've done to pull that together. I had not found the one background study that you mentioned a few moments ago that modeled roughly 1,000 feet. What I did find, sorry, some folks have heard this already, is an excellent study where a PhD in engineering studied where there had been explosions, including the major one in where was it, San Bruno in 06 or whatever, and he modeled, well, how does this really happen? And then he tested that against the other locations. And so with a 42-inch pipeline at 1,200, he gets to in a like spontaneous combustion radius of 1/3 of a mile, roughly 500 kilometers. So you got a diameter of 2/3 of a mile. And so now it's not just, with all due credit to the kids at the Y, and that's highly at risk. The entire shoreline of the north and eastern shoreline is entirely at risk. So the safety scale is truly immense. But again, kudos, you summarized it very nicely.
Yep.
And when you hear, ETC, they say that safety is their utmost priority. And clearly, because there were two options, that's not the case. That's not
absolutely true. And it's the technicalities that I've been baffled at all along. I'm sorry I'm a few moments late. I was trying to explain them to a reporter, and basically what you have to end up recognizing is that Rover deliberately chose to take this route, which we call Silver Lake entrapment. They could have had perhaps several other options to look at that stayed with ITC up to another point and still may have avoided these two, as you call it, technicalities. One's actually a red herring. The other one is the quote contaminated soils. We looked into that, and the best we can tell, there's no contaminated soil on the north shore or the west shore of this little pond that's 2 miles to the north. Everyone is in danger, including the Y, just because of this little pond at the north and some hazardous contamination on the eastern shore of that little pond.
Can I add one sentence to that? So even if there were contamination in that portion of the ITC route, they could still pay to clean it off, which would also help the community, but it would be more expensive.
Yeah, they could go across the pond at least 2 other angles, which would avoid the other technicality of the 13-degree crossing. None of this has been publicly discussed and exposed as potential alternatives, which would increase the safety and totally reduce the risk in the entire Silver Lake community, including the water.
And the amazing thing is all the information I have here, which is contrary to what their actual actions are, I've
Yes.
gotten off of a federal website. You know, these are
Right.
like published federal documents, so it's like looking at your own information and just saying facts to you. And it's, you know, even the research on how they determine these, the radius to keep the corridor away from high consequence areas, they have documentation of all of that as well. I mean, there's so much information, they do such a great job of documenting all this stuff. It's just, they maybe need to read it.
Again, well done.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to share this document and the whole website. It's the Office of Pipeline Safety. There's a ton of information in there.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time.
So you'll be available for questions at the end, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we have a map up here too of the entrapment, so if you wanna come up later.
Interject for 1 second.
Yeah, please, yeah.
Like, just a disclaimer real fast, because, you know, and part of these things, we're opening up to the public, but yet these meetings are private, so at this point in time, I'd like to ask if there is anybody here that works for Rover Energy Transfer Partners or any other subsidiary of them, I'd like to ask you to leave,
Exit now, please.
please. If you don't, unfortunately, well, the laws are the same on both sides, it's an infiltration, so, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Matt.
Maybe you learned something.
Hi, and I'm sorry I'm late. I don't know if anyone's covering.
Meetings will be administered later.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone's covering Wendy's really achievements. It sounds like she wasn't able to come tonight.
Yes, she was not, but,
Go
you can help
ahead,
me.
I'm sorry.
You can help me, yes.
I will help you
So,
as best I can, please go
Yeah,
ahead,
what I was
sorry.
gonna do, Matt, and,
Mhm.
so one of my agenda items I forgot to mention, usually at the beginning of our meetings, we go around and say who you are, why you're here. As Matt pointed out, this is a group against, the pipeline, so if you're for it, maybe you're in the wrong place. I'll just ask, maybe, do any new people have any particular concerns that you wanna hear about, or if you wanna raise your hand and just, just vocalize them now, and we can try to address them